have a good morning? Great, that's nice. For today, you're going to be taking a test that's going to last for an hour or least, depending on how fast you answer the items. Okay, here's your booklet. Don't open it until I tell you to, okay? So first, we will try to answer the practice question first. I'm gonna read the first problem. Number 1. 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 5, 8, blank, 21, 34. What is the missing number? Okay, I'll give you 5 minutes to answer the practice problem. Okay, so what's your answer? 13? That's correct. So 13 is the answer because each number is the sum of the previous two. Okay, let's try another one. Okay. Jeff worked 44 hours 2 weeks ago, 34 hours last week, and 42 hours of this week. How many hours did he work in total? A. 124 hours. B. 118 hours. C. 122 hours. Or D. 120 hours. Okay, what do you think is the answer? Okay, so the answer is 120 hours. Why? Because you just add all of his working hours together to get its sum. So do you now have a grasp on what test you will be taking? Okay, bring out your pencil and open your booklet to page 6. You may now start.
Hello everyone, my name is Dominguez and I'm here to discuss to you about the intelligence test. For today's topic, we're going to discuss 3 important subjects. The first is number 1, Binet-Simon IQ test. Second is Stanford Binet IQ test. And the third one is 5 cognitive factors and subtests of Stanford Binet IQ test. So let's start. Binet-Simon Intelligence Test. Binet-Simon Intelligence Test is the first ever IQ test that was created. This test is well known around the world as a way to compare intelligence. Alfred Binet was a French psychologist best remembered for developing the first widely used intelligence test. On the other hand, Theodore Simon was a psychologist who worked with Alfred Binet to develop the Binet-Simon scale, one of the most widely used scales in the world for measuring intelligence. During 1900s, Binet together with his colleague Simon was assigned by the French ministry to create an instrument that can identify which school children needed help with their studies. They began developing questions that focused on areas not explicitly taught in schools, such as attention, memory, and problem-solving skills. Using these questions, Binet determined which one served as the best predictors of school success. He quickly realized that some children were unable to answer more advanced questions that older children were generally able to answer and vice versa. Based on this observation, Binet suggested that the concept of mental age or a measure of intelligence based on the average abilities of children of a certain age group. Binet-Simon consists of a series of 56 tasks and questions. Alfred Binet and intelligence. In 1905, he developed a test in which he had children do tasks such as follow commands, copy patterns, name objects, and put things in order or arrange them properly. Rather than focus on learned information such as math and reading, Binet instead concentrated on other mental abilities such as attention and memory. However, Binet stressed the limitations of the test, suggesting that intelligence is far too broad a concept to quantify with a single number. Instead, he insisted that intelligence is influenced by many factors, that it changes over time, and that it can only be compared in children with similar backgrounds. The Binet-Simon test consists of a series of 56 tasks and questions adapted to the capabilities of normal children of from 3 to 13 years of age, and their purpose is to provide a measuring scale whereby the intellectual performance of the child tested may be compared with that of the average normal child of the same age. Stanford Binet Intelligence Test. Louis Terman is an American psychologist that took an interest with the Binet-Simon Intelligence Test Scale when it reached the United States. He took Binet's original test and standardized it using a sample of American participants. This adapted test, first published in 1916, was called the Stanford Binet Intelligence Scale and soon became the standard intelligence test used in the U.S. It have gone through several revisions throughout the years until it reached today's Stanford Binet Intelligence Scale 5th edition. This is the timeline of revision of Binet-Simon to Stanford Binet Intelligence Test. On April 1905, the development of Binet-Simon test was announced at a conference in Rome. On June 1905, Binet-Simon Intelligence Test was introduced to the general public, and new versions of Binet-Simon Intelligence Test was announced on 1908 and 1911. On 1916, Stanford Binet first edition by Terman was published. On 1937, second edition by Terman and Merrill was published. Third edition by Merrill was published in 1973. Fourth edition by Thorndike, Hagen, and Sattler was in 1986. And the final and fifth revision by Roald was on 2003. 5 cognitive factors and subtests of Stanford Binet IQ test. The 5 cognitive factors of Stanford Binet Intelligence Test includes fluid reasoning, knowledge, quantitative reasoning, visual spatial processing, and working memory. These areas are covered by subtests that includes activities measuring both verbal and nonverbal intelligence. Activities include verbal absurdities, picture absurdities, verbal analogies, form patterns, procedural knowledge, sentence and word memory, position and direction, early reasoning, and quantitative reasoning. Here, all test subjects take 2 initial routing tests, a vocabulary test, and a matrices test. The results of these tests, along with the subject's age, determines the number and level of subtests to be administered. Total testing time is around 45 to 60 minutes depending on the child's age and the number of subtests given. Raw scores are based on the number of items answered and are converted into standard age score corresponding to age group, similar to an IQ measure. 1. Fluid reasoning. It is the ability to solve abstract problems in which no prior knowledge is required. It is the ability to solve verbal and nonverbal problems using inductive or deductive reasoning. Classical activities such as matrices require the individual to determine the underlying rules or relationships among pieces of information that are novel to him or her. The ability to reason inductively requires the examinee to reason from the part to the whole, from the specific to the general, or from the individual instance to the universal principle. In deductive reasoning activities, the examinee is given general information and is required to infer a conclusion, implication, or specific example. In the SB5, the early reasoning activity items require the examinee to inspect pictures depicting human activities and deduce the underlying problem or situation by telling a story. Its subtests are verbal absurdities, verbal analogies, and nonverbal object series matrices. Second one is knowledge. It is the accumulated stock of general information that has been committed to a long-term memory. It is a fund of general information acquired at home, school, or work. In research, this factor has been called crystallized ability because it involves learned material such as vocabulary that has been acquired and stored in long-term memory. Therefore, the first 2 factors indexes represent the widely verified fluid and crystallized knowledge dimensions of intelligence. Its subtests are nonverbal vocabulary and nonverbal procedural knowledge. Number 3. Quantitative reasoning. It measures a person's numeracy. It is an individual's facility with numbers and numerical problem solving, whether with word problems or with pictured relationships. Activities in the SP5 emphasize applied problem solving more than specific mathematical knowledge acquired through school learning. Its subtests include nonverbal quantitative reasoning, verbal quantitative reasoning. 4. Visual spatial processing. It involves the recognition of both patterns and spatial relationships. It measures an individual's ability to see patterns, relationships, spatial orientations, or the gestalt among diverse spaces of a visual display. Activities in the SB5 include form board and form patterns, where pieces are moved to complete the whole puzzle and the collection of position and direction items. The last one is the working memory. It is the multiple processes that capture, sort, and transform information in a person's short-term memory. Its subtests include nonverbal delayed response and nonverbal block response. In the SB5 last word items, the examinee listens to a series of sentences and then sorts out the last word in each sentence for recall. The concept of working memory is derived from theory and research that have demonstrated the importance of working memory in school learning, vocational performance, and general problem-solving tasks. That's all. Thank you for listening.